Hi, I'm Christy, and this is Today We Tried, a parenting podcast brought to you by Colugo, where we talk about big moments in parenthood and break them down to make them feel less daunting and more doable. I'm a mom of three and chief parent officer and general counsel at Colugo, and today I'm very excited to be joined by a special guest, Kesha Leets. Kesha just did something very daunting. She moved from Philadelphia to Maryland with her husband and a toddler while pregnant during COVID. And so she is here to tell us what worked and what didn't. And, it's funny. We were talking about this, Kesha, I feel like everyone's moving right now. So yeah. I think it will be super valuable to hear what you went through and what worked and what didn't, because lots of people are trying to do that now because life is just continuing as we are trying to adapt. So
I know, we know quite a few people moving right now as well.
It's wild. I guess I should have, people just have to keep going, but it seems like such a daunting thing to do, but
it was a little daunting, but we made it.
You made it. Yeah. So Kesha, thank you so much for joining me. And do you want to introduce yourself a little more for our listeners?
Sure. Thank you so much. Happy to be here. My name is Kesha. I'm mom to 2-year-old Evelina. And like Christy mentioned, one on the way. I'm due again in July, and I am the customer experience manager here at Colugo. My husband, Ryan, was just finishing up his MBA at Wharton in Philly when COVID hit and had already accepted his post-MBA offer in DC. So we ended up moving early.
So we were both part of the Philly team of Colugo. So we didn't get to a proper...
No proper goodbyes.
I
know.
But it's good. We can see each other on video now, so it's nice.
Yeah. Hello.
Okay, awesome. Well, let us jump in to this week's topic. So, moving during COVID. So you were planning on moving this summer. Why did you decide to move it up?
Yeah, I mean, we had a lease signed in Maryland, a small suburb of DC, where we ended up choosing to live, and we had, both leases signed. We were paying double rent anyway. And in Philly, we were in, like a 900 square foot apartment downtown with a 2-year-old and a 100-pound lab. So the house in Maryland has a yard and a basement and a little bit more space for both the kiddos. So we just decided if we're going to be stuck inside, we may as well be stuck inside with more space.
No, that's really smart. And I remember, this winter you getting this house and it was so exciting, but at the time it was like an annoying part about it was you had to pay those double rents, and then it was
we're so thankful now.
I know. You never know how that's
nothing we anticipated for sure, but it was pretty simultaneous when Ryan's classes went virtual and the Colugo office is closed and everybody was working from home, so it just felt like the right thing to do.
And did you have a lot of lead time between making that decision and making the move? Were you able to prep, or was it pretty quick?
I mean, there could have been as much lead time as we wanted because we had the padding of both leases. But I mean, as you know, of a mom of toddlers, as soon as you're cooped up inside, you want to get out as soon as possible. So we ended up scheduling it pretty quickly. We left 2 weeks after we started making the decision to move down to Maryland early. Yeah, it felt quick.
I guess I don't even know exactly what happened that day. Can you share what the day of the move was like? I'm sure it was jarring to have a lot of other people around suddenly, because it was a couple weeks into the stay at home. And then suddenly it was
yeah, we hadn't seen anybody in so long, or what felt like so long. And it's something, Ryan and I talked about a lot, whether or not we were going to hire movers and have people in our home and just hope that they're practicing social distancing and doing what we can to stay safe, or if we were going to do it ourselves. But again, like we've mentioned, we have a 2-year-old and a dog, and I'm pregnant, and it just felt so not doable to do ourselves. So we ended up working with a local moving company, and they followed all of the precautions you would hope, a moving company would follow. And they did it all in 2 days and did a really good job of staying 6 feet apart and wearing gloves and wearing masks and being respectful of our health and their health.
That's great. So did you drive? So you drove separately to Maryland?
Yeah. So as much as we could have prepared or could have not prepared, it was probably the biggest let go moments of the move. We drove down, and the move was only 2.5 hours away, but we got a call 30 minutes away from the new house from the movers with bad news. The moving truck had broken down and was being towed back to Philly with all of our things. So we ended up having to stay in a hotel in DC that night and get all of our things the next day. So it was, regardless of how well we could have prepared it, it still didn't quite turned out how we had hoped.
Oh my gosh. I can imagine getting that call after that
Yeah.
day, like packing up your entire life. And
it's one of those things too where we left our apartment and it felt so final, and we didn't have any of our things. Like, we didn't pack, overnight bags. Of course, we had like the diaper bag and things like that, but the things we had in our car were our 100-pound dog and the plants, because the movers wouldn't take live plants, and I wasn't going to give up my plants. So nothing, of course, we needed in the next 24 hours, but we made do.
Did you find a place where your dog could come and stay too?
We just found a place to get him boarded. And I know, poor guy.
That makes sense though. I mean, that probably, it all ended up being critical then, that he was somewhere safe and
yeah. So I'm sure we could have, but there would have been no sleep had if he would have come with us.
Yeah. So you've made the move now. You're there. Yep. How is it feeling? I know I've seen some pictures of your yard and I'm very jealous.
Yeah.
Happy for you, but jealous.
It feels like we definitely made the right decision. I know you mentioned earlier, we've had this lease for a while, and it felt so like trivial and silly to find this house space. We were looking for a preschool for our daughter, and it was absurdly competitive and just tough in the Bethesda, DC area. So we ended up signing this lease to, be prioritized for preschool that we really wanted our daughter in. And at first it seemed so silly to be prioritizing a move of our entire family over, our daughter's 2-year-old preschool. But the second we moved in, we were like, oh, this is definitely where we're supposed to be. We're on the Potomac River, and we have walking trails and no one in sight, and, tons of wooded area around our house and the fenced in yard. And the dog is happy, who's, he's been, like I said, cooped up in a very small apartment for a couple of years. So he's happy again.
You were with me as I was trying to figure out my okay. So I completely relate to prioritizing that and putting a lot of thought into that. And I
totally
makes sense.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I am very happy you all made it and you have a yard there. So let's turn now to some more specifics, and starting with the positive. What would you say worked in the move? What would you recommend people do if they're undertaking this challenge?
Yeah. Well, I know I briefly mentioned that Ryan and I had talked about whether or not we hire packers and movers, but that ended up being by far the smartest thing that we could have done. There's no way that not only could we have physically done the work, but where do you even go and get moving supplies right now? Am I running all over town to get boxes or, packing tape or packing paper? Just the logistics seemed like a nightmare. So while it was, maybe risky to have a moving team come in, with all the precautions, we felt fine about it. And it definitely saved us a lot of stress.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I feel like moving companies know what they need to do to stay safe too. And so you have that expertise on their side. So
absolutely.
That makes sense.
And they were really communicative about it, and I felt very comfortable.
Second thing you have here is ordering as much as we could directly to the new house. Oh, that's smart.
Yeah. So we ordered, we had our realtor come to the house early and just kind of bring a load from the front door inside, but I ordered as much essential things as I could to the house so I didn't have to deal with unboxing the right boxes first. And then I also ordered essential furniture ahead of time, which ended up being really, really nice.
That's great. Was it everything online?
Yeah, pretty much. There's companies that I've shopped at before and feel good about the products and stuff like that. Otherwise, there was Grove Collective that does all household cleaners and household goods. I had a big Grove order shipped here before we moved so I could have all my cleaning supplies out.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah, it was nice.
The third thing you have here is using the doggy daycare on the packing and moving days.
Yeah, this is not something that I had really thought of until, day of or day before the packers ended up showing up. But Like I said, our dog is a 100-pound lab and often feels like more work than our 2-year-old. So ended up getting him into a doggy day camp just the day of the pack, and then again in Maryland for the day of the unpack and the actual move-in. And that was like critical for everybody's sanity.
Well, and I'm sure it'd be really stressful for your dog to
For
be around
sure.
all the movers and just like see all the packing and really not understand what was happening. It's
Yeah,
probably,
he's kind of a sensitive guy too.
oh, you don't want to put
Yeah, I know. He's sweet.
Oh, okay. So those are great tips. What about what didn't work? What you would recommend people avoid if they're taking this on?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned in our actual move story, I definitely wasn't planned for like the immediate 24 hours following the move. So having a better, like an overnight situation or anything to get you through the next 24 hours, I would definitely prioritize packing a suitcase or packing things you want to have right away just in case something goes wrong or your goods don't show up or your tow truck or your moving truck breaks down.
No, it's good advice, and it's not something I would have thought, especially with a shorter
I
move.
know.
I think
Right,
like, okay,
exactly.
it's like 2.5
Hmm.
hour drive, I'll be all right. But when
Right.
you don't have those things, I'm sure it was a lot. So
Yeah.
good to
Yeah, it was
just
a bummer.
do it no matter what.
Yeah.
Um, and number two you have is banking on a grocery run. Yeah.
Yeah, this was probably my biggest stressor for the move. I didn't feel super stressed about groceries and grocery stores in Philly. Whole Foods was easy to get to. Trader Joe's had a line, but well stocked and not like completely ridiculous. But getting groceries here was a lot tougher than it was in Philly. So we ordered out a lot of meals, probably for a couple of days before we were able to do like a big grocery run here. And we didn't pack any of our food. I probably would have packed a few more of the non-perishables.
Yeah. Well, you don't think I would not have occurred to me. Also, where you were moving wasn't remote, but it's like
Right.
especially now, just getting a lay of the land and figuring out where it makes sense to go and where you have what would take a little while when
Yep,
you don't want to
totally.
be like wondering about to find
Yeah. We were like craving salad after
that.
after 3 days of ordering out.
Yeah.
Poor Evie didn't eat a vegetable for like 48 hours.
Yeah. I'm sure that was not, she did not experience that as a hardship though.
No, she was fine with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the third thing here is wanting to be unpacked and at home right away. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. That's a tough one for me. I definitely like to be settled and feel at home wherever I am, even if, like in a hotel, I'll unpack my things. And that's just not feasible right now. And that was I mean, it still is tough for me to kind of let go and make sure I'm doing it, in the right order and making sure we have all the things we need. But it's tough not to just want to stay up all night and unpack every box immediately.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you arrived there with, your dog and your 2-year-old
My plant.
and you're working and your husband's in school. Like it's hard, I bet. You have all of
Yeah.
these things, but yet you're home all the time. And so it feels
Right.
as though you should be able to do more. It is
Yep.
this feeling. I
Exactly.
feel like a lot of us are feeling that even without a move. It's like I feel as though I can clean or like do one small project in my house a day when I'm like, oh, but I should be able to do more. And I'm sure that if you have boxes around, it's even more like in your face, but there just isn't time or energy right now. It's
Right.
hard.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. And again, when everybody's home, I'm on calls, my husband's on calls. There's only so much noise we can make in the house throughout the day too with naps and work schedules. So it's just there's not a lot of uninterrupted time.
Well,
But we're getting there.
you're getting there
We're
and
getting there.
you've only just moved. So I
Yep.
bet you're further along than you think.
Yeah. Yeah, this place is a little bit bigger, so we're having to order some more furniture as well, but that's kind of the fun part.
That is fun. And maybe there's more closets to like put stuff in too.
There's definitely more closets to put stuff in. As if we need more stuff for little kids. Yeah.
I definitely have. We moved into this house we're in like a year and a half ago, and we have a storage room in our basement that still has some boxes in it, but
Yeah. Yeah.
eventually we'll unpack those, I'm sure. Thank you so much, Kesha. This was super valuable advice, and we will be back after a short break. Hi, Christy here. I wanted to take a minute to talk to you about Colugo. We recently upgraded our best-selling compact stroller, and every change we made was inspired by ways to make your life easier and to make fresh air feel a little more within reach. My personal favorite change is the new wider wheels, which make for a smoother ride. And we also updated our harness to make it easier to adjust, and our buckle is now magnetic, so it's even easier to use. To check it out, head over to our website, www.hicolugo.com. Now back to the show. Hi, Christy here. I am now back with Kesha, and we are going to answer a listener question in our Have You Tried segment. So like Kesha and I have said, and like many of you, we're working from home now. So we get questions from listeners about how we're making that work. And Kesha actually did an Instagram takeover for Colugo right at the beginning of our stay-at-home order in Philadelphia. And you talked about your day dividing up work and school duties with childcare and with Ryan. And so would love to hear, like, 6-ish weeks in, what has been the biggest learning for you guys as you're trying to navigate this new normal?
Yeah. Well, for background context, Evie was in a preschool while we were in Philly pre-COVID. So parenting full-time at home is not something that we've had to tackle before. We started this right away, and it's definitely our biggest win so far is just having clear working shifts between work and school and then parenting. So, we try to keep it as close to 2 hours as we can, depending on if there's anything special in each other's schedule that day. But that's definitely the easiest for us and the easiest for Evie. Another big learning piece with this is prior to COVID, Evie was in school. So, Ryan and I have always been super involved pre and post school activities. We'd be super involved with breakfast. We'd be super involved with after school play and dinner and bath time. We were just kind of always together all the time. And so this big chunk of the middle of the day is something we haven't had to navigate before. And so just as parents, we're working really hard on independent play and, encouraging all of the play that the 2-year-olds were doing at school at Chesterbrook, which has probably been a harder learning curve for Ryan and I than Evie, wanting to be in her face all the time. But yeah, it's interesting now to be able to take charge and watch her play by herself.
That's awesome. And that'll be really good when the new baby arrives too. If she's comfortable with that, that'll be a huge for you guys.
Totally. And it's really nice to have like a safe spot that we know we can, go in the other room or go in the kitchen or something like that. And we know that even if she's, not happy or something like that, we know that she'll be safe. So it's definitely puts us at ease for sure.
That is huge. To be able to not feel like that is a huge moment in parenting when your kid is old enough that if you do have that space, you can just not be in the same room and they're okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that is such a big shift from what, that where you just always have them in your sight.
Yeah. We can't have long stretches of time by any means right now, but, feel comfortable, like I said, running to the other room or whatever I need to do. And we're not worried about stairs or, other like immediate danger things that I was worried about in the apartment.
That's great. And you can be outside too now, which is great.
Yes, we're trying to take advantage of it as much as we can. We have a big fenced-in yard, so both Evie and our dog London are happy and running around, and it's nice.
That's great. That's really good advice. I think the clear shifts that's something Ted and I are not good at. We haven't done a good job. We've been trying to be like a little more fluid, but that never worked out well. Like I think defining it more clearly would be a good change for us. So that's really, really good.
Both Ryan and I are very, very type A and very, we like schedules and like having some rigid boundaries. So it works really well for both of us.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Kesha.
You're welcome.
Really loved getting to chat with you. And that is all we have for today. So if you want to comment on today's episode, if you have questions or a topic you'd like us to cover, you can head over to Colugo's Instagram, which is @HiColugo. You can email me. I'm at cpo@hicolugo.com, just in case Colugo is spelled COLUGO. And we will be back next week. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Kesha.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Our music was provided by Sound Planet. Our awesome producer is Aaron McGregor. I'm Christy from Colugo. We'll be back soon to share more about our adventures in parenting. Until then, remember, you got this.